Kathy clung onto a piece of driftwood as the river carried her far from the shipwreck. She was cold, wet and barely conscious, but the betrayal kept her awake. The man she thought she loved, Opio, had turned on her so viciously. She had to survive, had to make it back to the shipwreck. Revenge was the only thing keeping her alive. Kathy climbed her way back to the shipwreck. It had now become her refuge. She was consumed with rage, but she knew she had to be careful and patient. If Opio and Dembe thought she was dead, she had an advantage. She hid among the ruins, planning her next move. That night, she heard footsteps on the deck, her heart pounding. Kathy pressed herself in the shadows. Through a crack in the ship, she saw them, Opio now posing as Shimwe and Dembe. They were back to burn the body of the real Shimwe. She heard their voices. "Hurry, Dembe, we need to finish this quickly," Opio urged, his voice tinged with impatience. Kathy's breath hitched. She had to stay quiet. She watched as they poured gasoline over the body, her eyes welling with tears. Shimwe hadn't deserved this. The flames roared to life, casting airy shadows across the deck. Kathy bit her lips so hard that it bled, trying to keep silent. The creak in the floorboards made Opio pause. "Did you hear that?" he asked, turning towards where Kathy was hiding. Kathy froze, her heart thudding in her chest, loud enough she feared they might hear it. But just as Opio moved closer to investigate, Dembe called him out. "Forget it, Opio. We need to throw these ashes in the river and leave. We've done what we came to do." Opio hesitated, then nodded. Kathy watched as they gathered the ashes and threw them into the river, erasing all the evidence of the real Shimwe's existence. She waited until they were gone and then cried. She had been a fool to betray her husband with a man as vile as Opio. A month later, Opio, still posing as Shimwe, was living a life of luxury. The wealth and power he now wielded made him feel invincible. No one suspected a thing. He had told everyone that Kathy had died in a tragic accident while fishing in the river. He told them that they searched and only found her fishing gear. Amma and Tony, the best friends of the real Shimwe, were puzzled by Kathy's sudden disappearance, but accepted Opio's story. "She was a reckless woman and a cheater," Amma said dismissively, "but at least she's out of our lives." Tony, though concerned, shrugged it off. He knew Kathy was bad for Shimwe. Opio and Dembe were now living extravagantly, buying expensive things and flaunting their new status. Every weekend, there was a new woman in their arms. They had become the talk of the town. On Shimwe's birthday, Opio, who was now posing as Shimwe, decided to throw a grand party for himself. All of Shimwe's old friends were invited, including Amma and Tony. The mansion was filled with laughter, music and expensive wine. But beneath the celebration, there was unease. The Shimwe they had known had been a respectful, kind man, not the promiscuous, arrogant person now before them. During the party, Opio raised a glass, a smirk on his lips. "To new beginnings," he announced. "I have decided to sell this house and this land. It's time for a change." A murmur of shock ripped through the crowd. "Shimwe would never do that," someone whispered. "This was his family's home." "He lost his mind," another added. "What's gotten into him?" As the crowd protested, the doors to the mansion swung open. Gasps filled the room as Kathy stepped inside. Her clothes were tattered, her hair unkempt, but her eyes were filled with fire. "Kathy!" Tony exclaimed. "We thought you were dead." Opio pausing as Shimwe stared at her in disbelief. "How?" She pointed an accusing finger at him. "That man is not Shimwe. He's a fraud." The room fell silent. All eyes were on Kathy as she began to tell her story. "Everyone, listen to me." Kathy's voice rang out with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. "This man you think is Shimwe is actually called Opio. The real Shimwe is dead, and Opio with plastic surgery is pretending to be him." She explained everything that had happened. The crowd was stunned. "She's lying," Opio shouted, trying to regain control. "She's just trying to ruin my life. She's a cheat, a liar. I have proof that she was unfaithful to me with this man, Opio." He provided the pictures of Kathy and his old self, Opio, in intimate moments, throwing them at the crowd. "She planned to kill me and steal everything I had," he declared. The crowd turned on Kathy, their accusations hard and unforgiving. "Gold digger!" they shouted. "How dare you come here with these lies?" Tony and Amma turned to Shimwe, telling him they always warned him to kick that witch out, but he was so in love he didn't listen. In the chaos, the police were called. They grabbed Kathy, who pleaded with them, tears streaming down her face. "Please, you have to believe me. He is a criminal. He's pretending to be Shimwe." But no one listened. Kathy was dragged out of the mansion. Opio and Dembe exchanged satisfied looks. The party resumed, and the music drowned out Kathy's screams as she was taken away. "Now it's time for my gifts," Opio said with a smile. In the prison, Kathy was thrown into a dark cell. She begged the officers to hear her out, but one slapped her hard across the face. "Shut up, liar!" she spat. Days later, Amma and Tony visited Kathy, their faces full of disdain. "You disgust us," Amma hissed. "How could you betray Shimwe like this? After everything he did for you?" Kathy looked at them with sorrowful eyes. "You think I'm lying, but ask yourselves, would the real Shimwe do what this man has done? Would he sell his home and land? Would he change women like that?" Amma and Tony were taken aback. They had noticed the changes in Shimwe's behavior. He was nothing like the man they had known. Kathy took a deep breath. "I'm not a good person. I betrayed my husband and I deserve to be here, but you have to help me. The man posing as Shimwe is Opio. I killed the real Shimwe and he helped me cover it up. If you don't believe me, prove it yourselves. Take his fingerprints and compare them to Shimwe's in the database." Amma and Tony exchanged glances. They agreed to help Kathy, despite their reservations. They were doing this for their best friend Shimwe. They went to the police and told them everything. Amma went to the mansion, wearing a wire provided by the police. She acted casual as she sat with Shimwe, sharing a glass of wine. "Shimwe," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Why would you want to sell your family home? It's been in your family for generations." Opio, pretending to be Shimwe, laughed. "I'm tired of the past, Amma. I want something new, something better." Amma nodded, hiding her fear. "I suppose, but it's strange. You've changed so much since Kathy disappeared." Opio's face faltered. "People change, Amma, especially when they've been through as much as I have. That woman cheated on me and betrayed me." As they talked, Amma carefully grabbed the wine glasses, ensuring that she didn't touch Opio's fingerprints. She pretended to take them to the kitchen, but as she reached for her bag, Opio appeared behind her. "Why are you packing my glass, Amma?" Suspicion in his voice. Before she could answer, he swung a baseball bat to her head. Amma crumpled to the floor, blood pooling around her. Opio panicked, grabbing his phone to call Dembe. "I've made a mess, Dembe," he whispered. "Get here now." But before he could do anything, the police kicked down the door. They had heard everything on Amma's wire. They stormed the house, cuffing Opio as Tony rushed to his wife's side, his heart breaking as he saw her lifeless on the ground. "You're going to pay for this," Tony growled at Opio as the police took him away and Amma to the hospital. Dembe arrived a few minutes later, only to be arrested as well. The police tested Opio's fingerprints, comparing them to Shimwe's in the database. As Kathy had said, they didn't match. Opio's real identity was exposed, and both he and Dembe were sentenced to a long time in prison alongside Kathy, who had accepted her fate. Weeks later, as Tony sat by Amma's hospital bed, holding her hand, a man in a suit entered the room. "Mr. Tony," he said softly. "I'm the lawyer for the late Mr. Shimwe. I have something for you." He handed Tony an envelope. Inside was Shimwe's will, stating that all his wealth was to be left to Tony and Amma, his most trusted friends, in the event of his death, since he had no children or family, and his wife was fake. Tears filled Tony's eyes as he read the words. "Thank you, Shimwe," he whispered. Amma awoke, weak but alive. Tony kissed her hand, telling her the good news. They had been blessed with a fortune, but more importantly, they had each other. A few weeks later, they held a funeral for Shimwe at the river, where the shipwreck was. As they stood by the water, the wreck was finally removed, and with it, the dark chapter of their lives. They looked at each other, grateful for the love and trust they had shared. Shimwe's memory would live on in their hearts as they began a new chapter in their lives, one filled with hope and peace. So what do you think of this story, guys? Did you like the story? Don't forget to leave a thumbs up to this video. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post new videos. Stay tuned for the next video, guys. It will be interesting. Thank you for watching.